The Grand Council Hall was unlike any place in the galaxy. Its walls curved like the inside of a giant shell, glowing softly with blue and silver light. From the ceiling, strands of floating crystal hung in the air, turning slowly, catching the light and scattering it across the faces of those gathered. Hundreds of voices filled the air. Clicks, growls, whistles, and languages no human throat could produce. Representatives from dozens of species stood in their places, arranged in a great circle around the center stage dot. At the center stood a tall column of white stone. That was where announcements were made. That was where wars began. And sometimes ended. Today, the hall felt different. It was not the usual slow rhythm of politics and trade disputes. It was heavier. Something important, dangerous was coming. A deep horn sounded. The crowd fell silent. From the east gate they entered, the beast clans. They were enormous, even among their own kind. Each step made the floor tremble. Their bodies were covered in thick fur, black streaked with gold, their shoulders wider than a doorway. Their eyes, yellow, sharp, unblinking, scanned the room like hunters choosing prey. At the front was their leader, Lord Varrock. He was older than most, his fur streaked with gray, but his body was still heavy with muscle. He walked without fear, his claws clicking against the polished stone. When he reached the white column, he did not bow. He did not greet the council. He simply looked around the circle, letting his gaze fall on each representative. Finally, his eyes landed on the humans. They were only 3, dressed in formal dark uniforms, standing with hands behind their backs. They looked small, so small, compared to the towering beasts, and yet there was something in their faces, calm, steady, unmoved. Lord Varrock spoke, his voice a deep growl that seemed to shake the air. "We have come to end a lie," a murmur rippled through the crowd. The beasts rarely spoke in the council unless they were threatening someone. For centuries, Varrock continued, the humans have claimed they rose from their own soil, that they built their own ships, that they reached the stars by their own strength. He leaned forward, his teeth catching the light. They did not. Gasps, clicks, and whistles echoed across the chamber. Humans are not the children of Earth. They are the children of the clans. We made them. We shaped them. They were born of our will, and they ran from us. The statement hung in the air like a blade. Some species looked shocked. Others, especially those who had fought humans, looked almost pleased. A few laughed quietly, as if this revelation made perfect sense. The human delegation did not move. They did not protest. They only watched. One of the smaller alien diplomats, a thin, insect-like creature from the Kalari, leaned toward a human representative and whispered loudly enough for others to hear, "Is it true? Did they make you?" The humans still did not answer. Lord Varrock took their silence as permission to continue. "We raised them to be servants," he said, pacing slowly around the column. "They were strong enough to work the mines, but weak enough to obey. We gave them language, tools, shelter. And for this kindness, they betrayed us." He stopped and looked directly at the human ambassador, a man named Adrian Holt. "You were ours once. We owned your bones and your blood." The crowd was utterly still now. Even the crystals in the ceiling seemed to hang motionless. Adrian Holt finally moved. It was not much, only the slow, deliberate raising of his head. His eyes met Lord Varrock's, and when he spoke, his voice was calm, even gentle. "If you made us," Holt said, "then answer one question." The words were so quiet, so simple, that for a moment it seemed almost disappointing after such a grand accusation. But something in the way he said it made the room lean forward. The words had weight. They had danger. Lord Varrock narrowed his eyes. "Ask," he said, but Holt did not speak yet. Instead, he looked around the entire chamber, at the curious eyes, the doubtful faces, the quiet recorders flashing in the corners. He let the silence grow, until it felt like the whole galaxy was holding its breath. And then he smiled. "If you made us," he repeated, "why do we dream of things you have never seen?" The hall was frozen. For one long moment, no one moved, no one spoke. Even the ever-shifting lights seemed to pause. Then a sound began, quiet, confused whispers. The kind that spread like ripples in water. The beasts frowned. They did not understand. "Dreams are nothing," one of Varrick's lieutenants growled. "Random thoughts, worthless images." Holt's smile did not fade. "We dream of oceans that glow, under twin moons, of cities made from living stone, of voices that speak in the light itself. You have not seen these places. You have not heard these voices, so tell me, if you made us, how do we know them?" The question was a seed, and it had just been dropped into the soil of the entire council's mind. Some aliens leaned toward their neighbors, whispering fast. Others stared at the humans with a new kind of interest. A few looked uneasy, as if they had heard of such dreams before. Lord Varrick's jaw tightened. "Your words are tricks. Dreams mean nothing." But Holt's gaze did not waver. "Then prove it." That was when the tension in the room began to shift. The power, once firmly in the beast's hands, was no longer certain. A representative from the Theran species, tall, scaled, with eyes like molten silver, stood and spoke. "I have heard of these dreams," she said, "long before humans joined. The stars, some among my kind saw visions of the same places. We called it the memory of the stars." Another voice, a soft, clicking tone from the Kalari, joined in. "My people dream too. Of the cities of light. We have no name for them. We thought they were just stories." The murmurs grew louder. Now the beasts were the ones being watched. Lord Varrick growled, the sound deep and dangerous. "Enough of this. The humans belong to us. That is the truth." But even as he spoke, his voice did not have the same unshakable authority it had minutes ago. The question had changed the air in the room. Adrian Holt stepped forward. "If you truly made us," he said softly, "then you can answer my question completely. Where do the dreams come from?" Lord Varrick's answer was a sharp, heavy silence, and in that silence, the audience could feel something shifting, something far older than the beasts, something that did not care for their claims. The great hall still buzzed quietly with the echoes of the human ambassador's question. "If you made us, why do we dream of things you have never seen?" No one spoke. No one moved. The question was like a stone thrown into still water, its ripples spreading in every direction. The representatives of the many alien species had gathered here to watch the beasts claim their power. Instead, they found themselves questioning everything they thought they knew about humans and about themselves. Adrian Holt stood tall and calm, his eyes scanning the room. There was no anger in his voice, no challenge, only a quiet demand for truth. Behind him, the two other humans remained still, watching the crowd. One of the beast leaders stepped forward. His name was Korvac, younger than Lord Varrick, but almost as fierce. His fur was darker, his eyes sharp and angry. Korvac's voice echoed through the chamber. "Dreams mean nothing," he said. "They are illusions, tricks of the mind. They do not prove you are anything special." His words drew nods from many around him. But some faces showed doubt. A tall alien from the Theran species raised her hand and spoke. "I am Taylor," she said softly, "and I have seen the dreams you speak of." She paused, her silver scales catching the light. "Long before humans came to the stars, some of my people had visions. We called them the memory of the stars, places of light and shadow, cities that sang, and oceans glowing under two moons. You speak of these same things, humans. How do you know them?" The hall fell silent again. Adrian Holt nodded slowly. "That is exactly the question we want to answer," he said. "Not with words, but with proof." He stepped closer to the white column and pulled a small device from his belt. "This," he said, "is a recorder. It stores images, sounds, and memories from our world, from many worlds, in fact. If you are willing to listen, I will share some of them with you." Lord Varrock's eyes narrowed. "Why should we trust your stories?" he growled. "Because the truth is stronger than any lie," Holt replied. He activated the device. The air shimmered as a bright light projected into the center of the hall. Images appeared, glowing cities made from shining stone, waves that sparkled with blue light under twin moons, forests where trees whispered secrets in the wind. The crowd gasped, the beasts growled in protest. Fabricated images. Tricks of light. Korvac shouted, but others leaned closer. Curious. The device changed images, now showing music made from colors, a great library that floated in the sky, and strange creatures that sang in voices of light. "This is not our creation," Holt said. "These are dreams, yes, but dreams that tell stories older than any beast here. If you made us, why do these stories exist beyond your memory?" A soft clicking voice spoke from the Kaleri ambassador. "My people have similar stories," she said. "We believe them to be myths, but these images, they match what we have always dreamed of." The hall was filled with quiet murmurs of surprise. Lord Varrock bared his teeth. "Enough," he shouted. "These images mean nothing. You humans are liars and thieves." The tension in the hall rose again, but Adrian Holt did not flinch. He raised his hand for silence. "If you do not believe me," he said calmly, "then I invite you to visit the archives of Earth. There you will find records older than any beast history. There you will find the true story of humans, not born of beasts, but of stars, dreams, and will." The council was silent once more, the weight of Holt's words pressed down like a shadow. Suddenly, a faint sound came from the far side of the chamber. A small voice, quiet, almost hesitant. "I have seen such dreams too," said the alien historian Myra. She was small, with scales that shimmered blue and green. "In the oldest maps we found stars marked with signs of human presence long before." The beasts rose to power. She held up a hologram of ancient star maps, flickering with dots and lines. Whispers spread quickly. Could the beasts be wrong? Lord Varrock's growl grew deeper. "These are lies made to weaken us," he said fiercely. "If you continue to question, there will be consequences." The hall grew tense, the shadows lengthening. Adrian Holt stepped forward again. His voice was calm but firm. "Truth is not afraid of questions," he said. "We seek the truth, not to destroy, but to understand. If we are wrong, we will accept it. If we are right, then we must change how we see ourselves and each other." The council sat in silence. The beasts shifted uneasily. Some aliens whispered to their neighbors. Others stared with new interest at the humans. Outside the hall, the stars shone cold and distant. The question hung in the air, waiting for an answer no one yet knew. What is the true origin of humans? This was only the beginning. The Grand Council Hall was quiet, but the air felt heavy. The humans' words had shaken the room. The question about dreams and old stories hung like a dark cloud. Outside, stars blinked cold and distant. Inside, whispers spread like wildfire. Some council members looked worried. Others looked angry. The beasts, however, looked furious. Lord Varrock stood tall in front of the council. His eyes burned with rage and pride. He was not a leader who would let his word be questioned. "Enough," he roared. "You spread lies and confusion. Dreams mean nothing. Humans are our creation, our servants, our property." But his voice did not carry the strength it had before. The seeds of doubt had grown, and even some of his own people looked uncertain. At that moment, a voice rose from the back of the hall. It was quiet but clear. "I have something to say." All eyes turned to the speaker, a small alien with smooth, shining scales, who looked far older than most. His name was Mirak, an ancient historian from the planet Valen. Mirak stepped forward, holding a glowing tablet in his hands. I have studied the stars in the past for many cycles. I have found evidence that the story the beasts tell is incomplete and possibly false. The council fell silent again. Even Lord Varak looked curious, though his jaw tightened. Mirak raised the tablet, projecting ancient star maps into the air. The maps showed lines and symbols that none had seen before. These maps, Mirak explained, show human colonies on many planets long before the beast clans rose to power. Some of these colonies existed thousands of years before any beast markings. A murmur spread through the room. The truth was beginning to stir, and the beasts felt it like a wound. "This is impossible," growled Korvac, stepping forward. "These maps are fake, forged to weaken us." Mirak shook his head. "The data is real, verified by many independent sources. You cannot hide from history." Adrian Holt stepped forward, joining Mirak. "The past cannot be erased by anger or lies," he said. "Humans were never made. We were here first, explorers, dreamers, survivors." The tension in the hall grew thick, like a storm waiting to break. Suddenly, an elder beast with white fur and deep scars spoke in a low voice. His name was Karan. "I have heard these stories too," he said. "Long ago, before the clans were strong, humans fought a great war with our ancestors." The hall gasped. No one had spoken of this war in centuries, Karan continued. "The humans vanished into the stars, leaving behind legends and scars. The clans found a small group later and tried to breed them as slaves. But humans are stronger than we believed. They escaped. And now they stand before us, not as servants, but as equals." Lord Varak's face turned dark. "This is heresy," he shouted. "You betray the clans with your lies." But the council was no longer united. Doubt had spread like fire through dry grass in the crowd. Whispers turned into heated discussions. Some aliens looked at the humans with new respect. Others glanced nervously at the beasts. Adrian Holt smiled faintly. He knew the truth was powerful, and the beast's hold on the council was slipping. Outside the hall, the stars seemed to watch. Silently, the story of humans, their true story, was beginning to come alive again. The council chamber was empty now. The echoes of the last meeting still hung in the air, like ghosts of words and questions. Adrian Holt and his small team moved quickly and quietly through the great halls of the space station. They were no longer just diplomats. They were seekers of truth. Their destination was a place few had visited in many years, the Forbidden's Archive. The archive was a huge station, floating alone in the dark silence of space. Its walls were cracked and covered with strange marks, signs of old battles and storms. Few knew what secrets it held. Fewer still dared to enter, but Adrian and his team had no choice. If they wanted to prove humans were not created by the beasts, they needed evidence. They passed through the heavy doors, which groaned like ancient beasts themselves. Inside, the air was thick and cold. Dust floated in the faint light. Rows of shelves stretched in every direction, filled with glowing data crystals, old records, and carvings. Adrian's companion, Mirak, the historian from the planet Valen, ran his hand over a carved wall. "These symbols tell stories," he said softly. "Stories of wars, of alliances, of old powers lost to time." Adrian nodded, scanning the carvings carefully. Suddenly, a small chamber opened before them. Inside were murals, giant paintings carved into stone walls. The images showed great battles, humans fighting enormous beasts with sharp claws and fiery eyes. Humans stood tall, with weapons made of light and energy. The beasts looked fierce, but the humans looked even fiercer. Mirak pointed to the oldest mural. "Look here," he said. "This is the first battle, before the beasts became the clans we know now." Adrian studied the scene. The humans were not servants. They were warriors. They were survivors. Near the murals, a small pedestal held data crystals. Adrian picked one up and inserted it into a reader. The room filled with images and sounds, voices speaking in languages long dead, star maps showing human colonies far beyond any known system. As the data played, the team realized something incredible. Humans had existed before the beasts rose to power. Humans had spread across the stars, fought wars, built civilizations. Suddenly, a warning beep sounded. The station's security system was activating. "They know we are here," Mirak said, his voice tense. Outside the archive station, beast warships appeared on the radar. They were coming fast. Adrian and his team moved quickly, gathering as many records as they could. The walls seemed to close in around them as alarms blared. With a final burst of speed, the team escaped the station just as the beast ships fired warning blasts. The warships did not follow. They knew this was only the beginning. Back on their ship, Adrian looked at the data. The evidence was clear. Humans were not created by the beasts. Humans were something older, something powerful. But the truth came with a warning. The beasts would not give up easily. They would fight to keep their story alive. Adrian spoke to his team quietly. "We must show this to the Council. The galaxy needs to know the real story of humans." Mirak nodded. "And be ready. The beasts will not accept this." Quietly, outside the ship, stars glimmered cold and bright. The truth was out. The war for history had begun. The council hall filled once again. This time the atmosphere was different, heavy, charged. Adrian Holt stood at the center, holding the data crystals gathered from the Forbidden's archive. The glowing images from the crystals filled the air around him, murals, star maps, DNA records, and ancient voices. The beast clans entered, their steps heavy and slow. Their leader, Lord Varak, wore a mask of anger and pride. His yellow eyes scanned the crowd, but they stopped on the humans, cold and hard. "You bring lies to the council," Varak growled. "Fabrications made to tear down the truth." Adrian stepped forward. "The truth is stronger than any lie." He activated the data crystals. The images and sounds played for all to see and hear. The murals showed battles between humans and beasts, not as masters and servants, but as equals. The star maps traced human colonies long before the beast clans rose. The DNA records showed no sign that humans were bred by the beasts. The council was silent. Even the beasts could not speak. Then, a voice broke the silence. It was an elder beast, his fur white and worn with age. His name was Karan. "I am old," Karan said slowly. "I have lived through times you only know in stories. I have seen the truth the younger clans deny." He looked at Lord Varak. "We did not create humans. We found them. We feared them." The hall gasped. Karan told of the ancient war, when humans fought the ancestors of the beasts and won. He told of how the beasts later captured a small group of humans and tried to breed them as slaves. But the humans escaped and grew stronger. Lord Varak's face twisted with rage. "You betray the clans with your lies." Karan shook his head. "No lies, only truth. We are the ones who lied for pride." The council erupted in debate. Some sided with Karan and the humans. Others stood with Lord Varak. Amid the chaos, Adrian spoke calmly. "We are not here to fight. We are here to understand. The truth will set us free." The beasts growled and hissed. But even they could not stop the tide of truth. The council voted, for the first time in history, to open the archives and share all records about the origins of all species. As the meeting ended, Adrian looked at Karan. "Thank you," he said quietly. Karan nodded. "The truth is hard, but it is stronger than fear." Outside, the stars shone brighter than ever. The war for the truth was not over. But the first battle was won. The Grand Council Hall was quieter than before. The great tension of the last meeting seemed to settle, but the air was still thick with unspoken truths. Adrian Holt stood in front of the council once more. his eyes calm but determined. After the last revelations, the council had voted to open all archives. But many questions remained. One question in particular needed an answer. Where do humans truly come from? Adrian asked. The beasts no longer had the strength to deny it all. The evidence was clear. The elders were tired of lies. Then a soft voice spoke. It was Karan, the white-furred elder beast. Long ago, he began, there was a great war. Humans fought the ancestors of the beasts and won, but they did not destroy us. Instead, they vanished into the stars. Karan paused, his eyes distant. We found a small group later, survivors. We tried to control them, breed them as slaves. But humans are strong. They grew beyond our control. They became free. Adrian nodded. We are the children of the stars, not the beasts. Our dreams, our stories, come from beyond. We are survivors, explorers, and fighters. The council listened. Some in silence, others with tears or anger, but the truth was clear. The human ambassador looked to the stars beyond the council windows. We are not your creation, he said softly. We are your reminder that no cage holds us forever. A quiet cheer rose from some of the council members. Others looked away, ashamed. The beasts slowly stepped back, their pride broken but their respect for humans growing. Outside the council, the stars shone with new light. The galaxy had changed. Story of humans was no longer a secret or a lie. It was a story of strength, freedom, and hope, and it was only the beginning.